Marbury versus Madison involved some of the most important people in American history, including Thomas Jefferson.
As brilliant as Jefferson was, he did not have a sense of the future. He, unlike his political rival Hamilton, who did have a sense of the future of the United States being a commercial nation, an industrial nation, Jefferson envisioned the United States being forever a nation of small farmers and small artisans. And of course, as brilliant as Jefferson was, that he totally missed that.
Another key player in this case was John Marshall.
John Marshall was the leading Federalist of his day. His ultimate goal was to increase the power of the federal government. He began his political career as a member of the Virginia House of Delegates and Council of State. He was a leader in the fight to ratify the Constitution after the Articles of Confederation proved useless because of lack of power in federal government.
Marshall was appointed to the position of Chief Justice of the Supreme Court by Adams and a Federalist-controlled Senate that was about to leave office.
Although they were second cousins, Jefferson and Marshall did not trust each other because they were political enemies with drastically different philosophies and views on how the country should develop. Besides the quarrels between Jefferson and Marshall, there was also conflict between the Democratic-Republican Party and the Federalist Party, led by President John Adams.
During the lame duck period between the time that Jefferson was elected until he was inaugurated, Adams took measures to ensure the survival of the Federalist Party. Adams appointed 42 justices of the peace and 15 judges. One of the justices of the peace included Marbury.
Marbury was appointed by Adams to be a justice of the peace, but did not receive his commission because Jefferson used his influence to make sure that James Madison did not deliver it. Marbury decided to bring the matters directly to the Supreme Court and asked for the court to grant a writ of mandamus.
A writ of mandamus is a formal directive that requires a court or some other form of government to engage or not engage in an activity.
Eventually, the court decided to hear arguments for why Marbury should be issued a writ of mandamus.
Marshall felt that the commission should be issued because Marbury had been legally appointed. However, he said that the Supreme Court had no right to enforce his opinion, as he believed that the Constitution did not give the court jurisdiction over this type of case.
Marbury, being a Federalist, Justice of the Peace appointed to the District of Columbia, and Marshall, being a Federalist, you would think Marbury would be a slam dunk to get his commission to become Justice of the Peace. But Marshall overlooked that. He realized that if he appoints Marbury, he's going to drive Jefferson crazy, so the executive branch and the judicial branch will be at war. And he said, maybe I can do something more enduring than just give this man the job he was given. So what he does, he denies Marbury his justiceship. And the reason why he does it, he says, the law that enabled Marbury to be appointed, the Judiciary Act of 1789, when the Supreme Court was formed, he said that was unconstitutional. Because what it did, it gave the Supreme Court the final say in who would be a justice of the peace or who would be a judge, and that really belongs to Congress. So even though he sacrificed his fellow Federalists from getting a job, what he did, he put the Supreme Court in a position saying, okay, now the Supreme Court has the right to look at any law Congress passes that comes before it and determine whether it's constitutional or not. And he kind of like made a big end round around Jefferson and made him look kind of like caught with his pants down, so to say.
It was a perfect exercise of both judicial proclamation and judicial restraint, and made clear that the power that the judiciary has is the power that was given it by the Constitution, no more but no less. And I mean, it was brilliant for that reason.
Because of this decision, the Federalist Party was able to further increase the power of the federal government, which, as their name implies, was exactly what they wanted to do. Conversely, the Democratic Republicans, who were led by Jefferson, were displeased with the decision because they were proponents of a smaller federal government. The decision was revolutionary because the idea that a court would challenge laws made by the legislature was previously unheard of, and it implemented judicial review, which was a novel idea that sparked many different reactions.
The impact of this case was amazing. First of all, it was 1803, I believe. Up until this point, the Supreme Court, its role in government was kind of like ill-defined. In Article 3 of the Constitution, it spells out the responsibilities of the Supreme Court, and they're relatively very, very few. It deals with ambassadorships, it deals with treaties, it deals with disputes between states, and this case, John Marshall took the Supreme Court into new territory that was kind of like pushing the envelope of the Article 3 of the Constitution, where instead of dealing with foreign affairs and impeachments and disputes among the states, we now can take a piece of legislation, whether it's federal or whether it's even state, and rule whether it's law or not.
Every Supreme Court, every judge, frankly, has benefited from Marbury's explanation of the role of judicial review.
Prior to Marbury versus Madison, there was no opportunity for the judicial branch to prove its relevance. This was drastically changed by the implementation of judicial review.
Judicial review is the doctrine under which legislative and executive actions are subject to review by the judiciary branch, and it states that courts with the power to do so must annul the acts of the state that are incompatible with the Constitution.
When you have power and you exercise power in order to reach an agenda or to reach a goal, you're going to push that authority as far as you can. Why wouldn't you? That's human nature. And if there's nothing there to stop you, you're going to continue to exercise that authority to the point where your authority is superior to the authority of others, including other branches of government. This was the moment in history where the third branch of government demonstrated to the American people that it was a co-equal branch and it was a relevant branch. And the citizens of our very young country, for the first time, got to watch the branches of government interact with one another. It was, at least in my personal opinion, the moment in our history where the judicial branch of our government became relevant.
Although this decision was important when it was made, its lasting impact was even more important.
It was the first case in world Western history that a governmental entity, in this case a Supreme Court, ruled a law passed as being unconstitutional and therefore null and void.
Marbury versus Madison probably still stands today as the most creative, the most thoughtful judicial decision ever rendered. Without it, there is no ability, no check, really, on Congress's ability to pass whatever laws it wants to pass.